In this video, I'll explain how to find your strongest and weakest planets using Tarabala. Tarabala is an amazing astrological technique that is entirely native to nakshatras and entirely independent of the zodiac. This video builds on what I've shown you already in episodes 1 and 2 of this series, so if you haven't seen those already, please do. In episode 1, I explained what Tarabala is and introduced you to the 9 different varieties of Tarabala and explained how they fall in terms of being strengthening or weakening. The 5 strengthening Tarabala are the friend, the parent, the teacher, the loyal fan, and the muse. Of the remaining 4 Tarabala, 3 of them are weakening: the ex, the foe, and the vampire. And then there's the sibling, which is kind of both strengthening and weakening. In episode 2, I showed you how to figure out what Tarabalas you have for each planet in your chart. So for this video, pick one of them, anyone you want. Pick one of those planets, because eventually you'll do all of them. Just pick one to start with, and let's figure out how strong or weak this planet is overall as a result of the Tarabalas that it has. I'll show you how to do it using my Jupiter, for example. So the simplest approach to this is just to give it a point, give Jupiter a point for every strengthening Tarabala that it has. So the ascendant is a loyal fan of Jupiter. It's Mitra. That's strengthening Tarabala, so let's give Jupiter 1 point. Rahu is Sampat. Rahu is Jupiter's friend, so give Jupiter another point. Saturn is Mitra, another loyal fan, so that's another point for Jupiter. The moon is Jupiter's muse, Ati Mitra. That's also strengthening, so that's also another point for Jupiter. Sun and Mars are both in parental Tarabala, or Kshema. So that's 2 points, 1 for each planet. Mercury and Ketu are both teachers, sadhana, so another 2 points, 1 for each planet. Venus is the only one that's not going to give Jupiter a point, because Venus is in the vampire Tarabala, draining Jupiter. It's called Naidhana. So if you just tally up those points, you see Jupiter has 8 Tarabala points out of a maximum of 9, which gives you the picture that this planet is doing pretty great. However, this is a little overly simplistic. There's a flaw in the technique which is kind of obvious, which is that it considers every weakening Tarabala to be equally weakening and every strengthening Tarabala to be equally strengthening, but they're not really. So let's just add a small step to correct that oversight. All we need to do is assign scores to each Tarabala. Here are the values that I use for calculating my star strength report. Now let's use these values to evaluate Jupiter one more time. So the ascendant is Jupiter's fan, that's worth 5 points. Rahu is Jupiter's friend, that's worth 6. Saturn is another fan, so that's another 5. So now we're up to 16 points for Jupiter. The moon is Jupiter's muse, Ati Mitra, that's worth 7 points. Sun and Mars, both being parental, that only gives 8 points for each. But now Jupiter's total is up to 31. And Mercury and Ketu, they're both teachers. That together contributes 6 points, 3 each. Venus, being a vampire, of course, contributes nothing. So now we have a grand total of 37 points for Jupiter. The maximum that a planet could possibly get would be to have every other planet in the chart be Ati Mitra. So 9 planets giving 7 points would be a maximum of 63 points. Well, Jupiter has 37 out of 63, and if you just do the division, you'll see it has 59% of its maximum Tarabala strength. In my star strength report, I do this for all 10 points in your chart, and then I order the results in a table. So for example, my table in my star strength report looks like this. This is just one short step away from being a very intuitive source of interpretations. All we have to do is replace the name of the planet with their key symbolisms, and then we basically have an ordered list of our personal strengths and weaknesses. For example, this is telling me that I'm a very real person. Remember that this is the evaluation of Tarabala, which is about how things work together. So what it means is that most of my talents and my skills work together best when I'm being real, dealing with things that have practical results, making practical effects. The list has other synonyms. You can focus on any of those adjectives and get important interpretive information from it. And again, remember, this is the opinion of Tarabala, which is about how things work together. So what it's really saying is that all the talents of my planets, they work good together when they're producing something that has an appearance, something that other people can see, make people see something. If you look at the bottom of this list, you'll see rebelliousness and strength. So what is this telling me? Yeah, in other words, I'm not exactly cut out for delicate social interactions. I'm not good in situations where people do not want rebelliousness, do not want non-conventionality, do not want strong opinions. Now, I went one step further with this table. I rearranged it into something you might call a posterable quote. Here it says, I excel with reality, practicality, and faith, but struggle with wildness, independence, and authority. When you get your report, I encourage you to swap other keywords in and out of these posterable quotes. These are the keywords from the top 3 and the bottom 3 planets. And if you swap in other keywords for those 6 planets, you'll open yourself up to the other nuances and facets of the interpretation. So for example, this says, I excel with reality, practicality, and faith. Reality is one of the keywords for the ascendant, which is one of my top 3 planets. So I could swap in another adjective describing the ascendant and see if that rings a bell or a different bell or rings things differently. Or I could take another adjective for Rahu, since Rahu is the one at the bottom. Instead of wildness, maybe if I said nonconformity, it would all of a sudden make sense to me. So in fact, this is a really useful tool for exploring the Tarabala interpretations. In this video, I introduce you to a goldmine of self-knowledge that is found in just 2 of the over 80 pages of my Tarabala report. So please order your report right away and explore the almost infinite information it unfolds for you. The newest report, Star Strength, uses a system called Tarabala to unfold 90 interpretations of the nuanced relationships between all the planets in your chart, which paints a rich and detailed picture of how your various strengths cooperate or compete with each other. Order these or any of my reports and accelerate your journey to deeper self-understanding.